don't show prep. So, so he had no idea.
I just barely make it in.
I'm sure you can tell, but we don't show.
I mean, let's put the cards down on the table here.
Miami Hurricanes, yeah. You know the name already. It's Mercy. Ha ha. It's a 6-ring Kane show. Can't forget the name though. Got Jazz, Blue, Vision, DJ break the game code. Ain't no changing them, ain't no breaking them. Real Portland live from the Hard Rock Stadium. Ball 14 for the orange and green. We see the 6-ring champs. It's more than a dream. This is life on the field. Beyond 100 yards of hurricane that's never still put a damage to your squad. The 6-ring Kane show. The 6-ring Kane show. The 6 Rings Kane show. You know.
What's wrong with us? Seriously.
What's wrong with us? We're Miami Hurricanes fans.
Welcome to the 6 Rings Kane Show, a show dedicated to Miami Hurricane sports, featuring the legendary Larry Bluestein, Jazz Santana, Vish, and Danny Gillette. Let's go Canes.
Let's go Canes. Welcome back to the 6 Rings Canes show. After listen, Miami Hurricanes are 4-0, baby. 4-0 for the Miami Hurricanes. I mean, some of us on this show thought we'd be 3-1, but whatever. That's
Yeah, they didn't remember that Texas A&M sucks. So, they should have paid attention to that.
We'll let it slide. We'll let it slide for now, but now we get into the heart of the schedule. Obviously, we're coming off a big win against, and I'll say why it's a big win in a second. But it's a big win against Temple, 41-7, and then of course now we've got the bye week, and I think it comes at at first we were complaining about the bye week. I think it comes at a good time, considering we've got some injuries and
well we'll see there, right? Because once we get to like November, might be like, oh, I wish we had it now.
Well, right now it's a good time, right?
Yeah, no, it's definitely that
for sure. So we'll get a little bit into that and some recruiting talk as well towards the end of the show. So make sure you guys tune in for that. However, I mean the biggest news is we're recruiting. Are we expecting recruiting news tonight? We'll see. But it's a 41-7 victory this weekend in Temple. It's the first game, that the Hurricanes travel to, right? So your first road game of the season, and you had some things working against your favor, but the Miami Hurricanes did exactly what they needed to do.
Obviously, I was there. I would say it was technically a road game in that it was not in Hard Rock Stadium. It was 3-1 Canes fans, at least. It was definitely not a road crowd. It was a home game from a crowd standpoint.
What crowd?
I mean, to the extent there were, I'm going off of percentages, not raw numbers. Because they don't even sell the upper deck seats, period. So the only thing you can buy is the lower deck. And
how many people were really there, you think, Vish, more or less?
Oh man, I don't know. I see more at high school games in Miami, to be honest. Like it was to the 20? Extent there. I mean, yeah, probably about 20K maybe. It's hard to tell because again, they don't sell anything in upper decks. You're kind of in that compressed area. The other thing is like, I mean, it was the weather was awful. So
the weather was bad.
I think that it actually didn't really rain much. It was just cold because the wind was blowing really bad the whole time, and the stadium isn't like enclosed or it's open on the end, so it's just swirling in there. It was technically, I think, in the high 50s or low 60s, but that wind was going 20 to 30 miles per hour the whole game. It was so windy that like the rain wouldn't stick because the wind would blow it off you. So you weren't actually getting wet even when it was raining because it was whipping it off you so quickly. It was like being in an event. Yeah, shout out to
from the
Bernie.
storm, right? That storm.
Yeah, so we got lucky that up there, at least in DC, actually it rained a lot more. But up there, we got lucky that we kind of just got the wind part of it. So it didn't rain much. But again, when it did, it was so windy it didn't really stick to anything. Yeah, shout out to Fernie. Hopefully you got your liquor you were looking for. We could just find beer. He went in search of liquor, and then I never saw him again. But I'm assuming everything went well there. Yeah, no, it was a good time.
Ernie went through it, man. You know, he went through it with the airport closing and all that stuff. So
yeah, he almost got diverted. I was telling him, if they diverted you to the DC side, I'd just scoop his ass up on the way in. But he ended up getting to land in Philly itself. Yeah, no, it was a good time. It was majority Kane fans. Ran into some people I knew like throughout, not just Fernie. Oh, I had to go to the club level to get liquor. All they had down on our level was beer. So he said he needed liquor. A lot of concessions were closed. I don't think they opened them all up.
Yeah.
My other friend, she texted me and was like, they're selling coffee somewhere. So I went and did that. Got need the heat.
Coffee, for sure, right?
The heat, man. I need the heat. But that was so windy, it blew the cup out of my cup holder at one point. So I lost the rest of that. But and I can tell you more on the field stuff. TVD unfazed by it. Like, I can't believe he threw the ball that well with how windy it was. Because you can see,
I know you didn't see it in live, but in some of the replays on TV, you can see the ball kind of changing its trajectory as it's flying through the air. You can actually see the wind manipulate.
He was able to still be accurate, which is really. I mean, Emory Williams only threw one ball, but that thing floated like 5 yards off where he aimed it because it hung in the wind and took it. But TVD was able to throw through it, and yeah, I mean, it was a good time. I'd recommend it in the future if your Canes are playing in the Northeast. It's because there's a lot of Canes fans there. It was a fun experience.
Cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
I saw when Borregales hit the field goal. You could see he's done this before, and because he hit it all the way over to the right, and it came back.
Yeah, I noticed that too. that is true.
Yeah, no, and that's what I was like when he was making those fields. Like, those are good kicks in that.
No, shoot. But you've had to do that before. You just couldn't just say, okay, I'm coming in. And because I think it was Josh Darrow said that in the pregame warmups, he was hitting them from 58 yards and such. And he said, but he hit them all the way to the right and they came back.
Yeah, no, it was as windy a game, especially like, because even in the Hard Rock, it's windy, everything's kind of closed in. So you don't really get that full effect. You're just exposed out there. So, but it was good. It's good practice in that weather, not just for Boston at the end of the year, but also we have larger aspirations of Charlotte. Charlotte in December is temperature wise probably fairly similar. You're gonna get those chopped up fields and stuff because the grass is kind of messed up in that weather, and also it's good practice for all that down the road.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. Blue, obviously I mentioned it a little bit earlier today on your show, but the Canes didn't necessarily look great, right? This wasn't their A game by any means. Of course, they were missing some guys on primarily on the defensive side of the football, and you noticed that they were, it definitely wasn't their best game. Miami still came out and dominated the football game and won a game easily. That, look, truth is, and I know we don't like to bring up last year, but last year this would have been a really tough game, and in a game where Miami could have folded and given up some big plays. I mean, they got lucky on some plays too with some touchdown that was called back and some penalties and whatnot. But that, at the end of the day, that's what separates a really good team from a mediocre team, and that's how notice the difference. Aside from athleticism and whatnot. But look, the truth is, EJ Warner threw for over 250 yards, more or less. They had an easier time throwing the football on us, and the secondary was a little bit suspect. You saw that throughout the game. Just looking at that game and the way they played, I'm happy that they came out with the win the way they did. That kind of shows you that this team, even in their bad days, or a mediocre game that they played, can still come out and dominate I guess a mediocre football team right now. And that's not a shot at Temple. It just is what it is. What's your take on what you saw from that team, Blue, this past weekend on the offense and the defensive side of the football? Is there anything that kind of concerns you, or are you kind of happy that this happened now and they're able to correct some things now in the bye week?
Well, certainly, as Vish alluded to, the weather obviously was a factor. But the thing that I think people were failing to understand, okay, Temple wasn't great, but it was a serious upgrade to Bethune-Cookman. They had dudes that could play. They had a couple of receivers that could catch. The running back was pretty solid. As you mentioned, Warner at least got where they got beat up and was the line of scrimmage. And I think you could see Miami's improvement on that offensive line because they gave him protection. They opened up some holes for the running game. Yeah, I mean, there's no concern. I mean, last year, if you got a 41-7 win over like Middle Tennessee State, you would have been elated. So I thought this game was definitely one that, you say to yourself, okay, it's game time is over. Now we got ACC. And I know that Vish hates when I do this, but Georgia Tech's not a complete rollover. They battle Wake Forest. I mean, they were dominating them in the first half. So you got to be ready for every single game. Maybe Virginia, not so much, but the rest of these games are going to be every game that they roll out now. I mean, even Boston College, and we saw what they did with FSU. So, it's Power 5 football. You have Power 5 football recruits on both sides, and I think that this was a good ending for Miami. Now, as you said, Jazz, they got the week off, heal a couple of people. Hopefully they could get I don't know if Cam will be ready for that game, but you never know. Maybe for the next game, obviously they'll need him against North Carolina because they're going to throw the ball a whole bunch. So, yeah, that was my assessment. I thought they played a better team than a lot of people understood. I mean, because these kids, I know a lot of those kids that were recruited from Florida. And like the kid Joe Quez Smith last year ran for 2,600 yards for Tampa Jesuit. So he wasn't awful. He just, Miami. And again, my buddy led the game in tackles, Corey Flagg. I mean, he was there.
I'll tell you what, that linebacker core has been, I don't want to say a surprise, but it's been the strong suit of this defense. I mean,
the depth.
The depth is there now. You've got 4 to 5 guys that you can go to, which is nice to see. Where you need to get some guys healthy, and I'll go to you on this, DJ. Where you need to get some guys healthy is on the line, right? On defensive line, you're missing guys like Mesdor, Branson Dean. You just got Nigel Lee back this week, but he only played about 10 snaps, so you're still trying to bring him in slowly. Those three, aside from Cam Kitchens, are probably your top 3 players on defense as well, right? So, you noticed it a little bit where they had some issues getting to the quarterback. Again, it's taken with the truth is, though, they got the ball out quick because they knew that they were coming for them as well, right? So it's kind of both sides of the coin there, where you got a team that, we didn't get enough pressure, which we didn't, but at the same time, they kind of created a scheme where they were trying to get the ball out as quick as possible as well. And they did a good job with it because our cornerbacks and our secondary were a little bit suspect this game. They had some issues. I know some of them they were falling down and whatnot, but the fact of the matter is this guy threw for, a good amount of yards, and he was able to kind of pick apart the defense, the cornerbacks, the secondary a little bit in this game. From the defensive side of the ball, I'm happy with the offense. I think that the offense looks absolutely dominant. You rush for over 350 yards. You throw for over 250, something along those lines. I don't have any concerns with the offense. For me, it's about cleaning up some things on defense. What were your thoughts, DJ, on how the defense played against Temple? Am I reading too much into it, or is there some concern that they may need to clean some stuff up now in the bye week?
I don't think you're reading too much into it because no matter what, I mean, we talked about this in the pregame show, a couple weeks ago. Just these type of games, like this Temple game, is a chance to, start good habits heading into ACC play, and start good, starting good habits heading into ACC play, and also kind of getting ready to face tougher competition. I do think I do think we may see a lot of quick throwing on the part of our opponents because they know that our defensive line is going to be coming. And so I don't think, it would be one thing if the lack of pressure came after the quarterback was, standing in the pocket holding on the football, but I do suspect that there will be a lot of quick throwing against Miami. Once we get those three guys back, I think that will give them a better opportunity to rush the passer. And, you look at some of these ACC quarterbacks coming up. I mean, Drake May, I believe Riley Leonard from Duke. I mean, those are talented quarterbacks. So they are going to have to create some sort of a pass rush. I wouldn't worry about it right now, but I wouldn't necessarily say that everything is perfect there as we head into ACC play, because I do think, there are some things like getting to the quarterback and adjusting to those quick throws that kind of need to be looked at a little bit. It's not an overall area of concern yet, but it's something to keep in mind.
Vish, I mentioned this earlier too on when talking to Blue. This was a good as well, right? Is that you saw a lot of the 2s and 3s play, and not only did you see them play, but you saw them mix in with the 1s as well, on offense and on defense, right? Primarily on defense, you got to see a lot more, like the Jaden Harrises, and you got to see Devontae and Damari Brown. Even some of the linebackers, you got a little bit of Popo Aguirre in there, and some of the other guys along the line. You got to see a little bit of mix. Obviously, that's when that happens, you're gonna have some mix-ups in coverage. You're gonna have some things that they're still learning to do. However, the positive sign of it is the development of these players, so that later on in the road in ACC play, when things get when things get serious, and you potentially have a guy that has to miss a player, that has to miss a series, or God forbid gets hurt for the game, whatever the case is, you got some guys behind them that can come in and put in some real good snaps. Do you think that maybe kind of played into how much the defense, I don't want to say struggled, right? They still only gave up 7 points, but how they kind of bent a little bit too much maybe, and gave up all those plays through the air.
Yeah, I think it had a lot to do with it, actually. If you look at kind of who was out there, I mean, we came in with injuries, we rested people, we protected people, and it's hard to understate how critical Kinchins is to the pass defense, and he's not there just right from the go. And it was a few busts here and there. It was a lot of chunk plays where, I mean, we have 3 guys covering someone in the flat and no one covering the receiver on the second level. Like, that's a bust, which you probably don't have if you have all your starters in there. So, yeah, I think it definitely played into it. The other thing is we talked about this going into this game. Temple's a run-first team, and they had 11 yards rushing. So we took away what they do best, and that's what you want to do as a defense, force him to throw. And like you said, they put up more yards than the like, but the reason it's only 7 points is they're not good at this. So they're already doing like what they're not good at, which is why, he threw that pretty terrible interception in the end zone at one point. Even the touchdown was kind of a fluke. He just kind of threw it up for grabs, and it floated right over the underneath coverage. And I mean, he got it in there. Kudos to him. But I think, it was probably more bust and inexperience there. I did ask on Twitter, you were tagged on this too, what do people want to see? And it was health. And then, the other thing is, look, the pass defense is not and has not been, not just in this game, as good as we'd like it to be. But we're now, to Blue's point, we're holding them to a standard now, which is good, but it's much higher just because the rest of the team is elevated at this point where we're, you're starting to get big eyes on certain things, 3 or 4 games ago you wouldn't have thought are possible. And now you're like, is the pass defense going to hold us back from, maybe winning the ACC, right? I mean, that's kind of what we're looking at now, whereas, you would have taken these performances a few weeks ago. So, it's good we're nitpicking these things. I think looking at the game, like you said, the offense basically looked like they could do whatever they wanted. So it was really just looking at the defense and saying, well, the one thing they didn't do well was stop the pass. So that is the thing that you're looking at, and thinking maybe it can be done better. But again, I think having Kinchins in there makes a huge difference. Just he quarterbacks the defense. And Blue mentioned Corey Flag. This is definitely a Corey Flag game. Not a great surface. It's a little rainy, wind whip it up. everything playing in the box. He's very good. Oh yeah, no, this was the game he was meant to play in, man. He's just gonna get down a hill and get to that running back, which is what he does well. And so that was just played right into his strengths. Yeah, he was flashing all over the field. But yeah, definitely rotating is a lot bigger issue when you're trying to play zone and pass coverage and pass guys off, and you just kind of never played together before. So I think there's a lot of busts around that.
Yeah, it's a fact. That's a fact. That's a good point. I want to turn the attention real quick to the other side of football. I know we mentioned it a little bit, right? The pure dominance on offense, the running game. You know what impresses me a lot is the way that Shannon Dawson draws up, all of this. He shows so many different formations. He doesn't kind of hit you with the same thing over and over, even in the same game. In multiple games, you see different formations that he comes out with. So it's something different a little bit. Now you're seeing him show the RPO where TVD holds on to it, right? And they had never seen that before. So now the last 2 games, he's putting that on film. And I think all of this is done on purpose because the installation, Blue, and I kind of want you to kind of talk about this a little bit now. It's obvious that we haven't seen everything in Shannon Dawson's playbook, but what we've seen has been great, right? I mean, TVD's having his best season so far, and that says a lot from his freshman year when he came in and played really well. But the kid looks really good. He looks sharp. He's considered, again, now he's ranked down one of the top quarterbacks in the country. I mean, he's looking really good. The wide receivers, now everybody's talking about how these 3 wide receivers might be one of the top groups in the country. And the running backs, now they look like one of the top running backs groups in the country. And the offensive, right, this is all kind of coming together. I think Shannon Dawson and that whole entire offensive staff has done an absolutely incredible job. Kevin Beard has done an incredible job with the wide receivers. But now you're going to get into ACC play where he's going to open up the playbook even more. He's going to install a boatload of stuff on this bye week, and they're going to have to learn it and practice it and get it ready to go. It's not to say that they don't know it already, because I think at this point, it looks like TVD's got a really good grip on this offense. And the whole entire offense, period, has a good grip on it. So you're going to see them continue to open it up. What is the most impressive thing to you so far, 4 games in to this season? And it could be an actual player. It could be a group, a position group. It could just be mentality, physicality, whatever you want. What is the thing that kind of stands out to you the most?
I'd say the job that Xavier Restrepo's doing. He leads the country in catching percentage, and that's pretty good. For a guy who was undersized. I saw the graphic yesterday, and you need somebody. He's reliable. And that kind of opens up for things. So, he's one of them. I think that the receiving core is a billion times better than it was last year. You're not finding as many drops. And in this game, you could have every excuse to have had a lot of drops. There's a lot of facets. Like I said, I'm kind of in love with the offensive line and what they're doing, and they get after it. I watched Lee, and Lee tore up their nose tackle all day. And that's why you could see when they ran the ball, they didn't have to go outside. They ran tackle to tackle. And it's because they ran over the center spot. And there's a couple of facets that I think have propelled this team. I think, like I said, you could probably go to every position and every player and see how they've upgraded. And you were mentioning Kevin Beard, but, what about the job that Tim Harris has done with the running backs? And
absolutely.
You have to kind of manage those running backs. They're all of them can run. And somebody asked a question, I think it was in a post-game interview, is how come the kid
AJ Allen.
Yeah, AJ Allen. I keep forgetting his name. I'll call him AJ Harris. How come AJ Allen's not playing more? He's a dude. We saw him in that spring scrimmage, and that's when I said, "Oh man!" I said to you, Jazz, "There's a kid right there that probably gives you something that we don't have. He gets up out of there, and he's got that type of speed, and he's got that explosiveness." So, and they say, "Oh well, we're just trying to different combinations." But That's what the answer was. We're trying different combinations, but I
mean,
guess
they can
Parrish
do that.
is there.
They can do that when they're running for 350 yards. They can do
Yeah. No, I understand that.
Yeah, for sure.
And certainly you got to be happy with the way that Cheney's still standing. You know, I mean, after 4 games,
he started. That was
and I was going to say he took a couple of pounding shots. When he's on, he's tough.
Yeah.
He's tough to bring down, and he's got great balance, and he's got some pretty good speed. I told you the comparison I made him was Javaris James. If you remember, Javaris ran like that, never went down real easy, very strong, very athletic. You know, wasn't going to bust 190 yards for you, but he was going to give you the ability to get first downs, and that's what Cheney does. I think everybody has a role right now. I just would like to see A.J. Allen take more of a role because I think he's that, he's the guy who could bust one open. Although Mark Fletcher,
yeah, he looked really
been a pleasant surprise. That he's doing this.
Blue. What's awesome to me is that they all look like they fall forward, they break tackles, every single one of them, right? Like you even saw towards the end of the game, Chris Johnson come in, broke a couple tackles, and then he can just beat to the sideline because he's the fastest guy on the field.
Yeah.
So I think once he puts on a little bit more muscle, a little bit more weight, he could potentially be the bell cow for this team where he could be really dominant in college football. And then, what I liked the most out of that team, out of that position group was, the teaching moments, the development and the way that Tim Harris, is coaching, coaching that group. You saw Mark Fletcher come in and fumble the football and immediately was taken out and didn't see the field for maybe another quarter or two, right? You got to see how they're not taking any crap. They want to make sure you execute. They want to make sure you hold on to the football, whatever it is that your assignment is. But I think that it was a great teaching moment, right? You see some other times where, I mean, we saw it last year a lot, right? With some of the guys that were here before, and to be quite honest with you, they're at other schools and they're still committing the same errors, and they still have the same problems. And that tells me that, there's been a significant upgrade in that, as far as from a coaching perspective as well. I'm really excited about that. I think you can't say enough about the tight ends and how well they're playing. I know a lot of people want to see them catching more passes, but when you block like you got six, you block like you have a 6th and a 7th offensive lineman in there with Riley Williams and Cam McCormick. I mean, what more could you ask for? And every once in a while, you're going to get rewarded with a pass. And on that one play that it was either a touchdown. Or Jacoby George dropped it in the end zone. I don't remember what it was. Riley Williams was wide open in the middle of the field as well. So it's going to happen. They're going to get open. They're going to catch passes. But I think I was really excited with the offense as a whole. Real quick question here from David Everett. What's the deal with Citizen? He's still rehabbing. You're not going to see him this year. And when you do see him, I mean, you got another guy that's like, he might be the best running back on that team. So,
there's just no way he's going to get carries this year anyway.
Yeah, there's
no point. There's no point.
Which kind of sucks because that'll mean he hadn't played in 2 full years when he gets to play. So
I know, poor thing.
Yeah, that kind of. But just to your point, Jazz, you could do that discipline stuff when you have depth.
Absolutely.
So if you don't have depth, then you got to ride with what you got to ride with. And I think that's what happened last year in a lot of the cases. The guys who were making mistakes couldn't.
They didn't have anything else.
They couldn't. Yeah, all right, get over there. Like you said, Fletcher, they could sit him down for a couple of series because they got other dudes.
That's true. You gotta make a good point.
I mean, there's, it's just amazing how the depth factor and. I saw it like watching the Oregon game a little bit the other day. You could see they got like 10 guys for like all the positions. And if some guy screws up, you don't see that number for a while. So, I mean, and that's how progression is. I mean, and that's how you got better. And the whole thing to me is with this team. I mean, I think when I saw Mario a couple of weeks ago, he said that from a tight end standpoint, they may have a couple of guys get healthy by next week. So because that was 2-3 weeks ago, and they said that what's his name was 3 weeks away. So Arroyo. So if we could get him back in the mix, maybe limited against Georgia Tech, a little bit limited against NC, but full go against Clemson, I think that really adds a lot. And as you watch these teams play, that you thought, oh my gosh, that's why I said at the beginning of the year when me and DJ picked 7 and 5, I said I'll be updating that throughout the year. I mean, it's still, I thought at this point that they would be, that they would lose to A&M and beat everybody else.
Yep.
And I picked them to beat Georgia Tech, but let's see what happens after that. I just am a little leery about North Carolina because they throw the ball so darn much, and that's Miami still, as you said, kind of unsettled in the secondary.
Right.
But
I think
Davis is making a difference, though.
Once you get Cam back, the whole secondary changes.
Yeah, but he's got to get him back.
He's the best player at that position in college. He's one of the best players in college football, period.
Yeah.
We got a couple of questions here. We'll go through a couple of questions, then we'll get to a little bit of recruiting. But y'all think we see Chase Smith more in the linebacker rotation? I'm a big fan of Chase Smith. He's still learning a little bit because he's coming off an injury, but he's very talented. He can lay the boom. You guys want to take the Vish? You want to take that a little bit on Chase Smith?
Yeah, I think Mario's got the guys he's comfortable with. You see them playing a majority of snaps, and he hasn't played that much. So I don't know about more overall, barring an injury. I think he's got his starters there. And then, I think Flag gets a lot of the backup snaps. And I don't know, to be honest, if we're going to see an expanded role. I would be surprised if we see a big change in his role by the end of the year.
I think where you might see him a little bit is rushing the quarterback, right? He's got the speed and the strength to do that. Playing like a natural linebacker position right now, I still think he's a little bit away from doing that. I mean, if you see them and they're dominating a football game, of course you're going to see him a little bit more because he is very talented. But as Vish mentioned, you got
and I do think we've talked a lot about the pass defense and maybe some issues there. We have the number 2 run defense in the country.
Yeah.
And it's pretty clear Mario's focus is I'm going to stop the run and I'm going to run on you.
Yep.
and we're going to physically dominate in that sense. And so that puts more onus on, like you said, Jazz, the linebacker to be more natural at that position. And Chase Smith isn't quite there yet, I don't think. I think he can get there.
Yeah.
But I think, to try and supplant minutes from, Blues.
Another question from Daryl. Any word on Zion? We really wish he could play after GT. So I don't want to say I've kind of given up on Zion, but he's still hurt. He's obviously not ready to play. At least that's what I get after from all of this. There was a lot of talk about him coming in and being the savior at left tackle. Jalen Rivers is doing a hell of a job. If Zion Wilson could come in and spell Jalen Rivers every once in a while, or even Francis on the right side, just to kind of get some snaps if he's healthy. When the game's not on the line, of course, when we're playing these ACC teams, it's going to be tough. At this point, I think you're going to see Samson over Zion. I just don't know if Zion's ready to play. So that's my thing on him. I don't think it's a matter of him playing. I think it's a matter of him being healthy enough to play.
Well, I think it's both too. When he's healthy, like you said, you can't. I mean, the offensive line has been excellent and works well together. You're not going to shove him into that lineup. So it would be. It's another guy like barring an injury. We're talking backup minutes. Like you said, in a game that's not close, getting him some snaps to. He's another guy. Blue mentioned Sisson. He hasn't played in 2 years, also.
Yeah.
So at what point are you shoving him into maybe if the offensive line was struggling or something, but they're not. It's the opposite. So it's hard to see a reason even to put him in there.
Real quick here, question, guys. Who is the top quarterback from Anthony, by the way? Who is the top quarterback you think the rumors are talking about in 2020 that they're predicting might flip?
This is a hell of a sentence, my man.
Yeah. You're making me struggle.
Okay, I think the 2020. Let's ignore that. I think he's talking
in 2024, maybe.
Well, I'm pretty sure he did It feels like you did a voice to text here, and we're gonna have to decipher this. But
I get it. Who do you think is gonna flip to Miami that's committed elsewhere now to
probably for this coming class? Yeah.
Blue, you want to take this?
I would see. Remember, I told you last time. I think what they're going to do is they're going to hit the portal, and get a junior or so rather than because I think they, in somebody like I think they got a couple of pretty decent kids for 20, right now. And then they got a couple of good 24 kids hooked up. And then obviously the kid Nichols. So,
yeah,
I think it's just a wait and see. I just think they're going to hit the portal. And there's probably a guy somewhere out there, that may say, you know what, I want to go to Miami. I love what's going on. And because there's a lot of situations where you have some quarterbacks, but the teams are not real good. And, like you look in the Big 12 or the Big 80 now. I mean, everybody's going there. You're going to have an opportunity maybe to pluck somebody out of there, that's coming over, out of the pack. And the irony of this whole thing is the Pac-12 is one of the strongest conferences in football.
They got the best quarterbacks in that
by far.
Every single team except Stanford, maybe.
Yeah,
has a stud quarterback.
Unbelievable. And they're disbanding, which is great. I would jump on Washington State and Oregon State. What is somebody waiting for?
I know, right?
The Pac-2. So
speaking of Washington State, Cam Ward, that kid is the real deal, man. Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Michael Penix?
Cameron Ward, the quarterback of Washington State.
Well, Michael Penix is pretty damn good too.
He's pretty damn good too. Both quarterbacks out there in Washington are unbelievable. Got another question from Anthony. Maybe this one makes sense, Anthony. Jesus. Do you guys think it's scheme the reason why Kiko's stats are not as high as you're supposed to be compared to the other middle linebackers in the country? DJ, you want to take that?
I mean, I think this scheme, allows for, not necessarily flexibility, but for the ability to mix and match. I mean, he's still having a great season, and I do think, he has a definite role on the defense in the sense that, he's a guy that you can, count on week in and week out. But, that may not help him statistically, but I still think he has, been an outstanding player on that side of the football. As far as the scheme is concerned, I wouldn't necessarily worry too much about that. I mean, it's working decently well over the past, 4 games or so. So, I think it's just a matter of, adjusting to the scheme and college football as a whole.
I mean, I saw him make a TFL.
Yeah, I mean,
he's running around sideline to sideline.
Yeah.
I'm fine with what he's doing. All those linebackers are doing. Wes had a great game.
Yeah, first of all, I'm curious what stats we're talking about, even where you feel like he's not where he needs to be. But we've rotated a lot. It's 4 games into the season. Whatever. I don't.
And it sounds.
I don't think he or anyone else is really giving a crap what his stats are at this point. So.
And just based off of him, Anthony says, I want him to continue to be in the conversation for the Bookus Award. I really don't think they care about that.
No.
That's
I don't either.
And again, I think those awards, if the team keeps winning all of a sudden, like
those awards
all of a sudden it's like, no, a lot of those awards are who's the best team, who's their best player. That it's not necessarily the actual best player at that position. So.
That happens a lot, absolutely.
Yeah,
and it sounds so cliche too, but you look at some of the stuff that these linebackers are doing that don't show up on the stat sheet. They're pursuing the football. They're they seem to be where the football is at all times. They're taking good pursuit angles and things like that. So there's a lot of things that these linebackers have been doing that aren't necessarily statistically related, but are also helping out the defense immensely.
Yep, I agree. One more question before we get into recruiting. I have a feeling. Chi-Town King says, I have a feeling Damari takes more slot corner snaps as the year progresses. I'll kick this over to you, Blue, if you want in a second. But I will say this: the truth is, I've seen Kiko Couch struggle a lot, and against some of the better teams, he struggles a little bit. but sometimes he shows these, he plays these games where you're like, where the hell has this been?
Yeah.
TC? And the Temple game,
consistency, and
it's consistency. Absolutely. I mean, he had 2 picks, but I think a lot of people are, like you mentioned, Blue, and Fish. You guys mentioned that the ball is sailing everywhere, making bad throws, and he took advantage of that. And of course, good cornerbacks do that. You make those plays when they come to you. So yes, I think that DeMar could take some more snaps, but you're also going to see some other guys as well. I think he's still pretty raw, right? You see it sometimes, and he kind of gets lost, or he's not in position sometimes. So he's very talented. He can go out there and make some plays, but I think you're going to see a mix, and you're probably going to go with the sure hand, the guy that knows the system a little bit better. Maybe he's a little bit older, and to Corey Couch. And if he continues to make plays, then you're willing to let him make some mistakes as well. So, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen. That I get it. The longest play in the touchdown were on Couch. I mean, that touchdown was, like Vish mentioned, it was a fluke, man. That's kind of tough to gauge, but we get it. I get it. I just think that at the end of the day, he's got 3 interceptions this year. He had the game-winning, quote unquote, game-ending interception against Texas A&M as well. So I think that he has his moments where he plays really well, but if he continues to make being consistent, then you're going to see some other guys.
Again, a lot of those were zones, and it wasn't just him. And I think when the coaches look at the film, there'll be a collective failure on quite a few of those completions they had, because it was not their coverage busts on several of them. It's not as easy to look at it after the fact and say, well, it was him. He's the nearest to the play, but that's not necessarily supposed to be the case on a lot of these plays where he's, chasing the play when it's not his man. So I think we need to get our, and I guess Anthony's hitting on this, we need to get Kitchens back. That'll settle the defense a lot better in the passing game. And I think that'll allow our corners to play better as well.
All right. Let's talk about PricePicks real quick. PricePicks.com is our sponsor for the night and for every night that we're on. PricePicks.com. Make sure you check them out. When you log in, put in the code word 5 FIVE, and they will match your initial deposit up to $100. It's real simple. Choose anywhere between 2 to 5 players. Choose the over/under on their individual categories and win some money. It's real simple, guys. Just go out there, choose players from different leagues, different teams. So you can go from the NFL, college football, the NBA, hockey, Formula One. You can do it all there on PricePicks.com. It's real simple. Choose 2 to 5 players, pick the over/under on their individual categories, and win some money. Check them out. Go to PricePicks.com, type in the code FIVE5 when you log in, and they will match your initial deposit up to $100. Check them out. It's PricePicks.com. Just wanted to end with a little bit of recruiting news. You mentioned it, Blue, a little while ago about the quarterback situation. The truth is the coaching staff really likes Judd Anderson as well.
Yeah.
They see some really good things, and he's at a better school now. He's at Warner. Is it Warner what is it?
Warner Robins.
Warner Robins, right? Warner Robins now, playing well over there for them over in Georgia. But not only that, I mean, there's still some other guys that, of course, they're keeping a close eye on. I know that recruiting's starting to heat up a little bit for CJ Bailey as well, the kid out of Chaminade. We'll see about that. But the fact of the matter is, I do think they go in the transfer portal. I still think they get another quarterback that they might like that's out there. I know there's a lot of talk about a couple of guys that could flip that are committed to another school right now.
I'm sure the CJ Bailey talk was tempered after Mario watched him against Heritage. I mean, he didn't exactly look great, but I'll tell you,
he was pretty good against Central, though, right?
I'll tell you what, that was a game. That was probably the best high school game I've been to in 25 years.
Heritage Chaminade or the Chaminade Central game?
The Chaminade Central game. ESPN.
That was a good game. I saw it too, yeah.
2 hours late it started. I didn't get home till midnight, 1:45. But I'll tell you what, that's a game right in front of Randy Shannon and a couple of UNC coaches that Jeremiah is just – I'm telling you. I've never seen a high school receiver like this. Now, obviously, you could say, well, Andre Johnson wasn't that, but then he became. Same thing with a lot of these Jerry Judys and all that. But you get a 6'3", 195, 200-pound kid running in that 4.37 range with the ability to run routes. I mean, he kills defensive backs, and the things that he did. I mean, the guy will be making $11 million by the time he gets up.
NFL now. They say that he could play in the NFL now with that.
Well, he could play at a high level of college, but I'll tell you a guy that don't lose track of that because he's friends with Fletcher and he's not getting any PT at all is Brandon Ennis. And I said this the other day. If Brandon Ennis was here right now, he'd start. He would start. You know, from day one, he would have been a starter because he would have been in early. And they're playing Tate and a couple of other kids over him. Yeah, they have really good Marvin Harrison and those guys like that. But even in the lesser games, he's not even getting any looks, and he could play up to 4 games. So I wouldn't close the door on him, coming back this way. And because remember, he really liked Miami, and Mark Fletcher and him are real close, and a couple of other kids from Heritage are on the roster, like Darryl Porter and stuff. So he'd be an addition because I'll tell you,
I'd take him in a heartbeat. I'd take him back over here.
But I'm saying, but if he had made the decision to come here,
right,
he'd be right in the mix right now. There's no way that he wouldn't.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
At Ohio State, he doesn't get off the splinters. He just stays right there. And not that Ohio State's some juggernaut on offense.
Not right now, they're not. But
no.
So I got this. So another kid that you got to keep your eye on, and by the way, I'll answer that question in a second, Shaitan. It's kind of talking about this kid. Is Nye Carr, the kid that just decommitted, the wide receiver that just decommitted from Georgia. I know Miami's been in constant contact with him for quite some time now. I think the decommitment is no surprise there. I know that he's close to the Tallahassee area. He's close to that area, so a lot of people are talking about FSU as a potential landing spot. But I wouldn't rule Miami out on that one just yet. I think Miami's got a really good shot at him, and apparently, so Shaitan says with both Nye Carr and JJ both FSU locks. JJ as in Jeremiah Smith. So apparently he flipped to FSU already. I wasn't aware of that. Do you see us going after McCoy and Barney? Apparently McCoy is still committed to FSU, and Barney is still committed to UF. If I'm
Nebraska.
Oh, Nebraska. Okay, you're right. Nebraska.
But JJ, Randy Shannon was there obviously the other night, but everybody's there, and obviously everybody wants him, and I think obviously Miami will put the hard press on him, but at the end of the day, he's going to go where the NIL is, and that's
and I mean, I think we need to temper this whole someone's a lock somewhere thing.
Yeah.
I don't know where that information comes from, so I think that we need to kind of temper that. By the way,
I don't know if he was being a little sarcastic there based on the emojis, but
I don't.
I think the question was serious. You see us going after McCoy and Barney, but I think the FSU lock thing, he's got the little eyeballs in the thing. So I think
probably what he heard.
I think he's kind of making fun of FSU fans.
But as well as I do, and it's not just a Miami fan base. It's if they don't hear anything, they make it up.
Oh, absolutely. Everybody does. Yeah, that's no surprise there. So,
who's going to dispute it? The coaches can't say anything. So,
how else are you going to sell subscriptions, man?
Yeah, well.
By the way, LeWayne McCoy looked really good in that game. Also, I know he got a little hurt towards the end with some cramping or something.
Yeah. Once you cramp up,
Jeremiah Smith a little bit on some plays too. He had to. Who the hell else was going to cover that kid? JoJo Trader looked really good with a one-handed grab as well. Yeah. They're loaded at wide receiver. That kid, Denarius Gray, Washington.
And the Kyle Washington kid is really good too. But that being said, they're going to get pushed a little bit this week because they're playing Coconut Creek, and Creek is on the offense and defensive lines probably as good as anybody, but they just don't have the skill kids. They just got done beating Ely, who hadn't lost in 2 years, convincingly, and that's the last hurdle. even though they'll be 21-point favorites this week. It's the last hurdle for Chaminade. It looks like they're going to finish probably 3 in the country because Florida couldn't beat Mater Dei. So that's, Jesus, what a machine that is. Think about this. Mater Dei just beat the team that beat Bosco by 50 points. They're insane.
Bosco's really good too, yeah.
Yeah, but they lost to the team in Hawaii, Kahuka, and then Mater Dei play Kahuka this week and beat them 51-9, I think.
Jeez Louise. My goodness. Oh, I got a question for you real quick. You saw the play of Vincent Shavers and the newly committed Armando Blunt as well, who's a big dude. What'd you think about those kids, and what do they have there? What does Miami have in Shavers?
Yeah. Shavers played probably his best game that I've seen him, getting acclimated a little bit to the system. Yeah, obviously Blunt's a stud, but another guy that everybody's starting to wake up to is Randy Atarica, another junior on that same line, and he plays right even with Blunt, and another junior, and that's a guy that a lot of coaches had mentioned to me as well. So, but Blunt's a different level type of dude. I don't know where people got him reclassifying because no one else has mentioned it on that team.
About Blunt reclassifying? Yeah. Well, that's the word, right? That's the word.
Yeah, everybody says that, but the people on Central don't know anything about it. Maybe they do and not saying it, but they, I went up to the coach last weekend. He says, that's a rumor. He says the kid's not ready to go yet.
Gotcha.
But if he does, that'd be a huge addition to get his butt in there because he's big, strong, agile, fast. Remember, he's the number 1 shot putter in the nation for his class, too. Yeah. So he doesn't fool around.
That is a big kid. By the way, I'm going to answer this question. I know Anthony asked about why Emery is second string over Brown. Is it because Williams' skill set fits? No. I'll tell you, I think I know the answer to this. The reason why you're seeing a lot more Emery right now, Emery Williams and Jakari Brown, is because you want to get Emery some playing time. You want to get him some time and not have to burn his shirt. You're not going to have to burn his red shirt. So now you're getting into a position where we're blowing some teams out. We're up by 30, 40 points. You can let him come in and not have any pressure and just go out there and play some football and get some time and get his feet under him, play some college football, right, where everything kind of speeds up for him. I still think that Jakari Brown, you're going to see him with some packages soon. Remember, they're going to open up. They're going to install a lot more stuff with Coach Dawson as well. So I still think you're going to see a lot of Jakari Brown as a number 2 quarterback or as, in some packages as well. I just think they're kind of waiting to put that.
Hey, he beat Georgia Tech last year. Let's get him in there.
Yeah,
he did.
Dominate them. I totally agree.
Emery's not a better quarterback, but I just think that, if you don't have to burn his red shirt, and you're going to allow him to get some playing time, this is the perfect time to do it.
Yeah, because there's now the rest of the games, there's, ideally there is a blowout.
Right?
Well, yeah, ideally there's some kind of blowout where Emery can get some snaps, but pretty much we've ended that part of the season. So this is the only chance to get, like you said, Jakari's started and played many games last year. So it's not really like, oh, let's get him some action. Bethune-Cookman's not going to do anything for him. And like you said, he can impact the game in a situational package in like a real situation where Emery would really only come in if TVD's injured. And in that case, they're both going to play. Like I actually don't think we have a backup. No, I think if TVD's not available, it's going to be mixing and matching those guys.
Yeah, I think so.
That's what
I never want to get to that position, but
no, definitely not.
Frank, do we think TVD will come back next year? No.
Yeah.
I mean,
unless he wants
he's
to.
He's working his way into a. I don't want. Yeah.
I will say the one thing that, so from an NFL evaluation standpoint, there is zero reason for him to come back. If we have a strong season, he thinks like we can take another step.
Right.
Next year, some players do come back because they think they can win a championship or something. Like if we let's say we win 10 games or something, and he feels like, hey man, we can actually like go undefeated next year or something. Some players do come back for that reason, because there is something to be said about winning big things in college too as like a life experience. Yeah, from a draft standpoint, he's not going to improve his draft stock over. He is. I think it's hard to articulate. I know all of us except DJ, who's stuck up there in Boston, have seen him in person. If you only watched on TV, it's hard to articulate how accurate he's throwing, how early he's getting the ball out, like doing all the NFL throws you want to see him make, releasing the ball well before the receiver comes out of his break, and landing it in a gap that's barely even there. I mean, he's doing everything they want to see on tape. So it's hard to imagine, coming out of this season, assuming he keeps playing this way, which there's no reason to think he wouldn't, and having an NFL evaluation come back that he needs to show more. Like, that's not going to happen. He's making all the throws. And I think one thing that's kind of understated is about how accurate he is right now with the football. He's putting it like, if you need to drop it on a dime, he's doing that. And I mean, that's what they want to see.
Absolutely. Couple more questions and we'll get out of here. Is there actual smoke around Jordan Lyle? Jordan Lyle is a hell of a running back. I know that there's been some smoke about him recently, but I don't know. Maybe it's just smoke. But Blue,
I saw Humphrey last week. He played.
Yeah, you've seen Lyle play a little bit.
Yeah. He's a big time kid, but I don't think they'll bring in both of those kids,
Humphrey and Lyle.
I don't think they'll bring both of them.
And then remember, guys, they've got potentially one of the top 5 running backs in the country committed to, and Kevin Riley.
So I think it's either or. And I watched Humphrey the other day. They played against Crop and District. In fact, they only played like a quarter, but he had a touchdown run, like a six runs for about 50 yards. He's the deal. He's a deal, but they got to if they're going to take Lyle, they won't take him.
Right.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
And I kind of heard that a little bit too.
Yeah, I've heard a little bit about that. I don't know if I think they'll take him either, but he is a power running back. So
I don't think Lyle would fit in at Ohio State right now. So
right, he may be looking elsewhere, but I don't know if Miami is the place for him. So. And then as far as flipping David Stone, I think at this point, if he wants to flip, I'm sure Miami's still working on him, and he still likes Miami. So we'll see how that works out. There's still some other guys out there that are not committed. I know Aiden Breland. I don't believe Aiden Breland is committed yet, right?
No, not yet.
And I know that's Miami's top guy. If you ask anybody out there, Miami's top guy is Aiden Breland, and Aiden Breland likes Miami too. So we'll see if they can still.
That'd be huge.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot of people forget how sick our defensive line recruiting has been this year. They forget that we've got Marquise Lightfoot and who's the kid that we who's the other kid, the other 4-star that's on the edge? Why am I drawing?
Wayne?
Jaden Wayne.
No, Jaden here.
Oh, you're talking about that they have coming in.
Yeah, they just committed.
Oh, the kid from Texas.
Elias Rudolph.
Yeah, okay, Rudolph. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although he hasn't played much this year for some reason.
Really?
Yeah.
LJ McCray is another one. Yes, LJ McCray is another kid.
Daytona mainland.
Yep. So they've got some guys out there. So I would let it play out a little bit. You've got some things coming up soon.
Yeah. LJ's dad used to coach down here at Boyd Anderson, so he's familiar with the area. Big kid. He plays tight end too, so that shows you his agility.
Dylan Russell. I think it's Dalen Russell.
I watched him last week too.
He's a real deal too.
Had a good, a little shorter than I thought, but nevertheless, he's a Columbus kid, and that means a lot. Those kids are well coached and they're disciplined, and they come in with a purpose.
Right. Excited to see what happens in recruiting, but for now, eye on the prize. Let's go to work. Let's, Miami needs to get a little healthy and work on some things, clean up some stuff, and they'll be good to go. The Georgia Tech game is a night game. It's an 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
8 p.m. A late night game. That's as late as they get.
So that'll be fun. We'll definitely be enjoying that game. But make sure you keep it locked here. Next Monday we will have. Do you guys think we make a move on a big time quarterback? And if so, who would you want? We kind of addressed that a little bit about a big time quarterback. Blue, and I mean, the consensus is I think they go transfer portal. They may grab someone that I know. There's some talks about some guys out there that are committed elsewhere that may be looking here. But
Yeah,
I also
know.
think they do a 1-year guy.
It does feel like, obviously Judd Anderson is there. He's more.
Well, they do like him. They like Judd a lot.
Yeah. So I think, so it feels like, I think Blue said it. You just said, Jazz, like portal guy that can maybe come in and play more immediately
for the year
to compete
give
with
those guys.
Yeah, give Emery and Jakara
another year,
and then also you have Judd Anderson as like the freshman in that class to develop over time. I think that's probably the ideal now. The big time quarterback wants to come in, you don't be like, no, never mind. So,
I know it feels like we're already halfway through the season, but we really have only played 4 games. So we still got a long way to go. A lot of things.
I've not played a conference game.
Hey,
so,
Jake Garcia is available.
Oh,
yeah,
boy.
easy about that. Easy about that. Oh man. Anyways, we got.
I don't know if you want to.
Since you cover recruiting on defense, what is the weakest position in South Florida this year that you felt doesn't have a lot of depth throughout the position instead of being top heavy? Blue.
Probably linebacker. We don't have as many as we've had. You had Shavers and maybe a few others, but that's it. It's because McGahee's actually playing outside linebacker, but a DN too. So I don't know if you can. But I'd say linebacker is not as strong as it was the last couple of years.
Right. Yeah, that sounds right. Sounds about right. Sorry, stepped away working at the airport. It's all good, Tap. All good, man. Anyways, yeah, we'll be here next Monday. Make sure you check Buckets out later on this week. Thursday.
Yeah, Wednesday at 7. It's Wednesday at 7. The schedule drops tomorrow night for both men's and women's.
Yeah.
Oh, it does tomorrow night?
Yep. There's a release show on ESPN.
Nice.
For the ACC schedule. So
you think they'll stop writing Dion so much, ESPN? No, right?
That's what people want to see, man. I mean, look, you can complain about the coverage, but then the whole country watched a Colorado State game that at like 10 p.m. So they're giving the people what they want.
And they watch the entire game. That's the crazy part.
You're sitting there watching 2 crappy teams in overtime at 1 a.m. I mean, they got to cover that.
And I'll tell you what, you could laugh all you want, but they got a shot to beat SC this week because SC cannot play defense, not one lick of defense. Arizona State has to be the worst team in the world, and they gave up 502. Come on.
They're not going to beat them.
Colorado can't play defense either.
It's a Lincoln
Colorado is even worse defense.
Lincoln Riley special.
But they're at home, and they're going to be pumped up. And
they're
not going to even be bowl eligible. They're not going to even be bowl eligible.
They'll be bowl eligible, but I don't think it's going to be a smooth ride, so to speak.
I think that they are bad, and they just played 3 really bad teams, and they got lucky. And then Oregon came to town and.
Yeah, Oregon and Michigan are, I think, the top 2 teams right now. I think.
Yeah.
Well, after Miami, of course.
I'll throw Texas in there.
Well,
obviously, got Miami 1, and we're talking about everyone below that, right? So,
I was like Lex.
You sounded like freak Lex. Out. I was just joking.
Shout out to Miami Mayhem. He sounded like Lex.
Yeah, I stole his bit. He's gonna get this, Yeah, no.
12-0, baby. 12-0. All right, guys.
I will say though, real quick, with the whole open ACC system now, where there aren't divisions, Clemson taking 2 losses early kind of puts them very much on the outside right now. There might be no Clemson near the ACC title.
I mean, they
lost. They could obviously come into Miami and beat us easily. That's not what I'm saying. What I mean is, like, there's no coming back. This is ruthless when you have the straight shot division with all these unbalanced schedules. Like Florida State has us and Duke, and that's it left on their schedule. Like the rest of it's a joke because they got an easy ACC schedule.
And Syracuse is quietly doing some stuff too.
Right. And so what's happened now with the way they've done this, which is probably better than the divisions, but with the divisions, you were competing with teams that basically, other than 2 games, played the same games you did. There is none of that. The schedules are random. And you're all competing against each other. So you look at like FSU's conference schedule, it's so much easier than ours. And it's just like, okay, there you go. And like, so Clemson, they had to play 2 ranked teams. They lost them both. They're pretty much screwed because there are other, like Blue mentioned, someone like Syracuse is going to like only lose 1 game because they're not going to really play anyone. then so very important not to like do something like lose to Georgia Tech. You got to win those games.
We got to keep winning. We got to keep winning.
Yeah, but the conference is open.
It is. It definitely is. All right, my peoples. Good show tonight. We'll see you guys next Monday, 8:30 p.m. Adios.
The 6 Rig Kane Show. Yeah. The 6 Rig Kane Show. Yeah. The 6 Rings Kane Show.